Welcome to episode 3 of Ministry of Man. Now, let me tell you something. So, last time I explained how, I'd made it to such great heights that I was finally there. I finally made it. And I've been thinking about it. And I feel like it's just not what it's cracked up to be. I thought, maybe once I'd reached the top, all the fame, all the fortune, the money, I thought maybe then I'd finally feel like enough. Then I would be worthy. And then I would actually feel fulfilled. But I might be the first to come to this realization. It just doesn't feel anywhere. Once you've reached the top, where else are you going to go from there? So that's a little bit of a life update. I feel like I owe you guys who have been with me from the start, where I am, where I'm at. But just know this, that even though I've reached these great heights, I'm never going to forget where I came from, and I'll never stop doing the pod for you guys, okay? The poddy will continue forever. Right, enough funny business. We're getting down to brass tacks today. So, currently, we're going through the process of breaking down some of the key themes of the movie Idiocracy. So, obviously, like a little bit of a catch up. It's about a guy that is frozen in time and he wakes up 500 years in the future. And the movie kind of highlights this kind of dystopian world where things that are currently bad are kind of exaggerated a lot. So it's this hyperbolic, deteriorated society. So the same way that you would look at something maybe from like 500 years ago and like what the world looks like now, it's kind of taking those things and then being like, okay, what would it look like if we went 500 years in the future based on where we've kind of come from? So this is one of the things that stood out was the hypersexualisation of the world. So one of the scenes where he kind of walks into the doctor's office and he sees this magazine. It just says "Hot Naked Chicks and World Report," and then let's say he's watching the news or something. The news pops on, and the news anchors are just got like they've got no clothes on basically. So they're just in their underwear. So the guy's got no shirt, the girl's in some lingerie. Then he's like walking through the city-sized Costco and he notices that there's a Starbucks that says Starbucks, exotic coffee for men. And then it would say like H&R Block, adult tax return, home of the gentleman's rebate. So it's like, and he's obviously looking at this stuff being like really weirded out. But that's kind of like the world that it's trying to convey that we've deteriorated in that sense, or that kind of hypersexualization of everything. Like, okay, so here's a slogan that would ring true: sex sells. So that's kind of like a big theme or running theme throughout the movie as well. And like, it definitely makes sense as to why they've noticed to put that in. Because like, let's say you look 500 years ago and compare it to today, like even 100 years ago, compare it to today, and you can see like how far we've gone in like everything just seems to be hypersexualized. So that's kind of like a really obvious one as well. Because yeah, like if you looked at someone, let's say 500 years ago, even 100 years ago, brought them to today, they would be mortified at the things that are kind of seen as normal in our society, but were not normal back then. Look, for example, at like there is no way a mother from like 100 years ago would take their teenage son to the beach. Definitely not on the Gold Coast. Like there's things that used to be considered X-rated content or even softcore porn that's just on the window of a Honey Birdette in a Westfield shopping center. So there's like things like that. You look at TV shows and movies or whatever, and for some reason, and this is actually like, okay, this is the weirdest one. So everyone knows that like TV shows and movies now is just riddled with, there's always got to be like a sex scene or something in them. And I always wonder like why? Like what is the point of actually putting that in there? So say for example, if I'm just watching a movie, or I'm watching a show with, let's say, some mates. It's weird when a scene, like an erotic love-making scene, pops up on the screen, because it's like, what are we meant to be doing at this time? What is it that you're wanting to get out of putting this in? Like, what are you wanting the viewer to experience while this is happening? Because is it arousal? Because typically that's what those sorts of scenes would normally be for. So are you trying to get the audience aroused? If it's not that, is it entertainment? Because that's all so weird. Like, no one's sitting down with a bowl of cereal to watch like a hot and heavy kind of material. They're not trying to watch that just for the enjoyment of it and just casually watch a thing. And like, it doesn't matter, even if you're not with your mates, like you could be with your family. That's still weird. You could be by yourself. That's still weird. Like if I'm watching a movie on my laptop, the last thing I want is like a scene to pop up. And then like, I'm like, what is it that you're wanting me to feel right now? Like, is it just random enjoyment? Yeah, I just don't understand the angle that they're going for. Because like, it doesn't like progress the story in any way. A story is happening. And then all of a sudden it's like a 10-minute or however long, 5-minute scene that you're like, okay, well, like the story's on hold now. Because what they used to do is they would have two people, if they wanted to show that they were hooking up, they'd get two people to walk into a room and close the door behind them. And that would kind of be like the implied aspect of it was like, okay, well, we know what's happening now. So, but then it goes back to the story. Nowadays, it doesn't do that. It shows like the whole scene. Can you imagine if someone was telling you a story? Like if someone came up to me and said, I've got a story to tell you. And then they're telling a story and it's going along. And then they get to a point where they hook up with someone. And then they start sharing the detail in like explicit detail. That's weird to do that. Like, just tell me the story. Because then I'll be like, why are you explaining this part of it? I feel like this is a weird thing for you to do. Like move on to what's the point of the story? Like you don't need to describe the intimate details of a rendezvous. So it's weird that they do that. So yeah, so I don't know. Like obviously in society, it looks like it's deteriorated. General attire and what people wear now seems to be less and less. And there seems to be like people are not really complaining about it. Like they're consuming it as well. So what I wanted to kind of like break down, like why I think that is, like why the world would be getting more sexualized and the problems that are kind of feeding into it. Because obviously like there's one thing to notice in this, and it's really, really obvious as to why this is, but I'll go through it in a lot more detail. So notice how it says, like the magazine, it said hot naked chicks and World Report. It didn't say hot naked men, it didn't say hot naked people. It was hot naked chicks. Because obviously the consumer is going to be, like guys are far more visually stimulated than women are when it comes to like sexually explicit content. The Starbucks, it said exotic coffee for men. It said adult tax return, like the H&R Block, home of the gentleman's rebate. So like obviously the biggest issue there is that the primary consumers of sexually explicit content is men and the primary providers of the sexually explicit content is women. So I'll break down why I think that is, and obviously I've got a bunch of studies to look at as well. But yeah, so both men and women have a part to play. There isn't one particular gender that is worse than the other. I think that both are as equally responsible for this kind of deterioration, because I think it's a cultural thing. It's not a one gender thing. But the thing is that the issues are different. So the problems that men face with this sort of thing and the areas that they contribute to it, women are contributing in far different ways. Like they're not really the same. So when I talk about something, it's like, oh, okay, men have a problem with this. It's like, okay, women probably have the same problem, but just not in the same degree, or maybe not as much. And same with women, like women have a problem with this. And that men typically, it's not like a thing that men would really have a big problem with. It's not like I'm not picking on one particular gender. It's just that because we're different, because men and women are so different, we're susceptible to different things. The reason that we have a strength in one area is also a reason why we are weak in another. And ideally, in a perfect world would work together in perfect harmony, So I'll start with the the ones that I've noticed for men. So yeah, so obviously the thing that you notice is that it's tailored for men. So the slogan "sex sells." Who is it selling to? Like when it comes to visual stimulation, the primary target audience is men, and so there's not going to be an industry like without there being such a desire for it. So it's just it's simple supply and demand. There is a high demand for it because obviously there's lust issues and men not being able to control their impulses and that sort of thing. But the biggest issue for men is that if you aren't taught and if you don't train yourself in being disciplined in the mind and being disciplined to look away from certain things and not consume explicit content, like it's gonna take you over and it's gonna keep feeding into this like hypersexualized world, right? So the average age that a man or a boy, I should say, is first exposed to sexually explicit content is around the age of 10. So at that age, obviously you don't have the foresight to be like, maybe I shouldn't, look at this so much because in 10 years time or 20 years time, however long, if it's going to be a lot harder to stop. And my mind is going to be like hypersexualized and I'm going to look for more stimulating things. And I'm going to be so accustomed to it that it becomes either normal or things that shouldn't be normal become normal. Or you just can't even look at women without thinking sexual thoughts about them because you've fed yourself so much of the same thing. What do you expect is going to happen? So there's a responsibility on men that they need to actually implement self-control and discipline to turn away and to not look at that sort of thing so that their mind isn't getting sexualized, so they're not feeding an industry that is ultimately just damaging for a culture. So one of the biggest issues is when men consume pornography, it removes their drive to actually better themselves in the dating market, to compete with other men, to actually achieve some relational success or some romantic success. So basically, this is what happens. Let's say there's two men that are interested in the same woman. Well, who's the woman going to choose? Like if there's two men that are like offering themselves and she's like, okay, well, there's two options here. There's going to be certain markers that are going to make one person more attractive than the other. So one of those things is the ability to acquire wealth or the ability to acquire resources, provision, that sort of thing. If I have a child with this man, is he going to be responsible or am I going to marry just another child that I'm going to have to look after? There's a lot, and I can tell you there's a lot of man-childs out there at the moment. Yeah, so the more that you consume this content, the less your drive is because you're kind of getting a fix for that sexual stimulation from something else that doesn't require you to do anything at all. So you've got your mind is saying, I've got access to any girl that I want. And so you don't have that innate part of you that says, maybe I should do something about my life to increase my chances of getting a partner. So that's like one thing. The other thing is this. It causes so much apathy in men because they end up getting this depression come over them because they're being rewarded for something that they know they didn't deserve. So, okay, a good example would be they tried to implement participation awards in like primary schools at athletics carnivals or something. So let's say there's a race, there's 10 kids, first place gets the ribbon, but then everyone else gets a ribbon as well. So even last place gets a ribbon. And so what that ends up happening is, first of all, first place is like, well, if everyone gets a ribbon, why should I even bother trying? And they end up feeling worse. And the person that comes in last place, they're like, I got a ribbon, but I came last. And so I feel like I didn't deserve any kind of applause or accreditation for that. So they end up feeling worse as well. So it's the same thing with men who watch porn, is that they're getting something that they know deep down and innately that they didn't deserve to get. They put in zero effort and zero work and they got it on the cheap. And so it makes them feel worse about themselves because they're like, I'm not worthy of this. That's the thoughts that would start to creep into someone that does that. So that's a really big problem. The other thing is as well, is that like a common thing you'll hear is, let's say a woman's dressing immodestly and men or other women say, you should dress more modestly. And then they go, well, you should just stop looking. So first of all, that's 100% true. It doesn't actually matter what any girl wears, like as far as the behavior of the man. So the behavior of the man is on himself alone. Like you can't sidestep it. You can't just, well, I would have been fine if it wasn't for that. It's just putting blame. Like take some responsibility. You have to take accountability and responsibility for where your own eyes go. Even if someone was walking down the street naked, a beautiful girl walks down naked, you should still have the ability to be like, okay, I'm not going to look. So that's the first thing. Doesn't matter what a woman wears. Doesn't matter. The onus is on the man. You should behave accordingly. The other side of that is that doesn't just excuse women from dressing modestly. So clearly, there is a stark difference between what men wear and what women wear and what we're inclined to wear. Like there has been a very drastic change in what women wear. They claim that it was from some sort of oppressive patriarchy, which I don't actually agree with. And I'll explain why. So first of all, if we're comparing, like men obviously need to be modest as well, in the same way that women shouldn't be ogling naked men for sure. And like, obviously there's women that have issues with porn as well, but the stats are way more in favor that it seems to be a more man problem. So as far as reporting is concerned, a man is 3 times more likely than a woman to report having a pornography addiction that's a problem in their life. So the numbers just like, they don't even compare. And like, we know why. Like that's obviously we know that as well. Like men are more visually stimulated than women are. Women are more maybe emotional or storyline driven as far as like romance is considered. But men are very visually stimulated creatures. But you just compare what's actually happened in what men wear versus what women wear. Like across the board in pretty much any industry, it seems to be more appropriate. Like it's okay for women to just to show more revealing clothes, even if it's not even a sexual way. It just seems to be the design of the clothes and like the trends of fashion, even formal attire. Like, so formal, you're not going to see a man wear anything other than a suit. You're going to see his hands, you're going to see his face, you're not going to see any other bits of skin. When it comes to women's dresses, you might see like the whole back is exposed, for example. Again, this is not so much like a sexualized version of a dress, but it's just a more exposed version. They might even have a slit that goes all the way up to the hip bone. Like that's not super uncommon for formal dresses. There was complaints that came in for like the Dally M Awards that there were girls that were wearing, it was basically just underwear with a kind of see-through blouse over the top. So and there was multiple girls wearing stuff like that. So that was all obviously like, okay, this is like super revealing for some reason. Like, why is it? Why is that revealing? Like, why aren't women wearing, suits and then like cover their hands and the face? Well, we know why. And it's like a biological reason, is that because men are visual, biologically women have learned like over the history of humanity that there's certain ways to draw attention. And they say that it's not always for men, like women dress up for other girls as well. It's like, yeah, okay, sure. But like there's a lot more going on biologically than your conscious mind as well, by the way. So now, and then you look at, let's say, gym wear. So gym wear has actually kind of gone opposite for dudes. Like guys used to wear like stringers to the gym, which was pretty revealing for a guy as far as showing like the torso and stuff. But now it's kind of oversized tees. So there's been almost like a reversal for guys. Like oversized tees is kind of very popular to wear in the gym for guys. Girls, on the other hand, has gone like, it's wild out there. Like obviously there's a bunch of modest girls at the gym, but on the Gold Coast specifically, it is nuts. Like at one point, girls were very discreet when going to the gym. Like there was all girl gyms opening up. Like Fernwood, I think, is an all girls gym. So that was like a very popular thing. But now it's like yoga pants were only ever really worn in yoga studios, which were primarily just female places. Now they wear like the tiniest and tightest outfits that it leaves nothing to the imagination at all. So far to the point where even the tights weren't enough. And now there's like the scrunch pants thing that go like up the butt crack. So you're like, okay, like, geez. Like there's just no attempt at any form of discretion at all. And then beachwear is insane. Like I'm pretty sure I've seen girls wearing nothing but dental floss as a bikini. Like it's crazy the depths that the bikini has gone to. Like to put it in a bit of perspective, the guy that invented the bikini, his mum owned a lingerie store. When she passed away, he took over the store and he thought, how can I get people to wear this outside of the shop? And he thought, okay, I'm going to make it swimwear, right? So he makes the bikini, the two-piece bikini. But the issue is he couldn't get anyone to model it because all the models said it was too revealing. And the only person that he could get, that it was the first person to model the bikini, was a stripper. And then the reason that it was named a bikini was because the launch of it came 3 days after the first nuclear bomb testings in a place called Bikini Atoll. So that's saying something. At one point, girls were like, no way would I model this. And the only person that would was a stripper. And now it's like you can barely find a regular bikini. Definitely not on the Gold Coast. Definitely not when you're walking on the beach. It's like, it's just, there's more butt cheek than there is, oh, geez, anything. So like, yeah. So I remember there was this girl that was showing me old photo of her from like a couple of years ago to say like, look how I used to be like really fit. Like, look at this photo. And it was on her Instagram. And I was like, are you in your like underwear? Like I thought she'd posted an underwear photo on her Instagram. And she was like, no, it's bathers. I would never post. Like, are you serious? She got really offended that I thought it was underwear that she posted. And I was like, oh, my bad. I didn't realize it was waterproof. Sorry, I thought it was cotton. Turns out it was waterproof, so it's fine. It's like, in what world has this actually happened? Like, what kind of propaganda needed to take place to get women to wear things that oftentimes are actually less fabric than their actual underwear that they're wearing? So bikinis are underwear, okay? Bikinis are underwear. No one can change my mind on that. In the same way that budgie smugglers are underwear, bikinis are underwear. There's no two ways about it. So there is a big contrast. So there's a contrast between the issues that men have, the issues that women have. They're just different. One isn't worse than the other. We just got different issues because we're different creatures. We're susceptible to different things. We're wired differently, all this sort of stuff. So one thing that the Bible actually makes a good contrast with is in 1 Timothy 2, 8 verse 9, it says, therefore I want the men everywhere to pray, lifting up holy hands without anger or disputing. I also want the women to dress modestly, with decency and propriety, adorning themselves, not with elaborate hairstyles or gold or pearls or expensive clothes. So like the contrast here is that it's saying, men, I want you to do this. Women, I want you to do this. The reason that it says that is because it knows that there's a certain tendency for each gender to have issues. So for men, it was to lift up holy hands without anger or disputing. So it's like, oh, okay. Is that strange that the Bible addresses men with anger and disputing? Like, is that really like, no, we obviously know that men and aggression can go hand in hand. That's like men's aggression is a problem that men need to watch out for. It's not to say that women can't have aggression or that women can't get angry. It's just like the primary focus of a large group of people, because you're speaking to like large groups. So in the same way that there's so many women that are modest, I know most of my friends actually are incredibly modest, and I'm friends with a lot of Christian girls. So obviously there's more, that's like a thing that's taught. But with the second part of the verse, it was women to dress modestly. Why? Because they have a tendency not to. So that's like, and there's lots of different definitions of modest. Like obviously it says not to wear elaborate hairstyles, gold and pearls and all these expensive clothes. So modesty isn't restricted to just wearing less fabric or like more revealing clothing. Modesty is also inclusive of wearing like high designer stuff in like inappropriate settings. So like if you're a pastor and your congregation is dealing with like, there's a lot of people that are like having financial problems, or there's having, some people like can't afford to even get there. But the issue is like, so if you are a pastor, you wouldn't walk out in like a Versace shirt and Gucci pants. You know what I mean? That's immodest, because it's like, so there's other forms of modesty. It's not restricted to just wearing less, but it's like it's all inclusive. But the hypersexualization of society is what we're kind of talking about today. So that's why I'm more leaning on that when I talk about modesty. So and yeah, so like obviously guys need to be modest too. This is not a thing that's like one gender or the other, but clearly one is more inclined to wear less than the other. And like a lot of it isn't, so in the same way that men have had issues since around 10 years old, let's say, the first time they're exposed to is a very early age. Women are exposed in the opposite way in terms of like how, like figuring out how to get attention. So there's this girl named Freya India. I can't remember what she has studied or what her profession is, but she talks a lot about this. She says that like girls will learn on Instagram, like get an Instagram account pretty young, and they very quickly will learn what garners more attention based on what they post. So they might post a picture of a picnic and then they post a picture of them at the beach. And then all the people in their community and in their grade or whatever, like all the guys are just like liking their photo heaps, and that's getting like, 100 likes or 500 likes rather than 30 or 40. So that's one thing. So like from an early age, again, you don't have the mindset or the frame of mind to be like, maybe this is not good, unless you got good role models teaching you and telling you, but they're learning how to get attention, like from a very early age. So the setup is there from an early age. You've also got people like, I heard this story of someone named Tana Mongu. She's like an OnlyFans creator or a porn star is what she would be, but has an OnlyFans account. And apparently she'll post on her Instagram stuff like, post it up with Louis Vuitton bags and like all this expensive stuff, and then be like, oh, this is your sign to start an OnlyFans account. And then knowing as well that her core demographic of audience is like teenagers, and then saying, oh, this is empowering to women. And it's like, first of all, no, it isn't. Like, I don't know where this idea of empowerment came from. Like, it just does not make any sense. It's the complete opposite to that, actually. But yeah, so that the people that they're looking up to are kind of encouraging this kind of behavior. So yeah, like if you're a young girl in high school, you're learning really early this sort of stuff from like people that you idolize. And then you got things like female rappers, pretty much all they talk about is sex. Female comedians, all they talk about is sex. It's like, girls have it hard to fight against this sort of thing. Kind of attacking them at a young age. It's getting to girls young. In the same way it's getting to guys young. Like guys are seeing this sort of stuff young and don't have the ability to be like, oh, I shouldn't look at, unless they're obviously taught well, but a lot of guys aren't and a lot of girls aren't. So there was a quote from, so Paul Harvey is a guy that made this almost like prophetic warning in 1965 saying, and it's called If I Were the Devil. You can look it up on YouTube. It goes for maybe 3 minutes. But one of the parts in it, he says, if I were the devil, I'd convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be, and thus I could undress you in public. And geez, like it's harrowing how accurate like his little speech was in 1965. I recommend checking it out. I might put a link to it in the description after, but yeah. So like, yeah, so those are kind of the big differences I feel like men and women have that are contributing to this hypersexualized society. So each one has their part to play. They're just different. No one is worse than the other, but it's the more men consume of it, the more women like demand there is. So like the more women would produce it, and the more that gets produced, the more men will consume. And so like it's this kind of never ending. It's like this snowballing effect that like it takes, men need to stop consuming and have some self-control, and women need to have some self-control as well and stop like, yeah, putting out content. Because there's obviously, if there's no content to view, then there's nothing to consume. And if no one's consuming it, then there's not going to be a demand. And so no one's going to produce the content, So there's both have a part to play. So yeah, so the other thing like I wanted to look at, because this literally popped up like a couple of days ago. It was an article that was posted by news.com.au last week. Oh my gosh. It's like, I couldn't think of a dumber article. So this is what the article says. So the title of it is, The boob double standard needs to stop. And then the subtitle is, women face a double standard where men can go shirtless without issue. Yet even the faintest outline of a woman's breast under clothing is immediately deemed suggestive. So it's like, yeah. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is, that there's a double standard there? Like, you have to try really hard to not know the social dynamics of men and women and how we operate. Like, first of all, since the dawn of time, since going back to like Adam and Eve, they covered up because of nudity. What do you think is the difference between men's nipples and women's nipples? Just take a guess. Like, it's not a secret that males have a sexual attraction to females' breasts, and that women don't have a sexual attraction to male breasts. They're not going, oh, get a little peek of the nip. Like, women don't care. Like, it's not a thing. She goes, in 2025, the Free the Nipple movement is alive and well. Okay, well, no, it isn't. Though arguably it never really left. Like, for you to have to say that, obviously you know that it's not alive and well and that it did actually leave. Like, no one's talking about this anymore. It didn't go anywhere because you're advocating to be naked, and that's against the law. So like, it's the dumbest thing. She goes, somewhere between the rise of Instagram censorship and a cultural swing back to conservatism, the movement got slightly tucked away under padded cups and high neckline shirts. But make no mistake, the nipple has never been freer than it is today. What do you mean it's never been freer than it is today? Like, because it's not any different than it was with the Free the Nip movement. It's probably, well, like she said, there has been a bit of a cultural shift. She even mentioned, like, just early in the thing, the rise of Instagram censorship and a cultural swing back to conservatism. So how has it never been freer than it is today? Like, that kind of doesn't make sense. She goes on to say that she's a fan of it, right? And she's like, I would do this. I'm all for a subtle hint of nipple under the top. I don't do it for the male gaze or attention. In fact, almost the opposite. It's a little form of microfeminism against society's puritanical relationship with breasts. It's like, so to say that it's a puritanical relationship with breasts, is it a puritanical relationship with balls? Is the reason that I can't have my balls out because of a puritanical relationship with it? Like, why can't I have my nuts hanging out? Like, why is that inappropriate? Like, women, like, if women can have their boobs out, then I should be able to have my balls out. Like, it's such a dumb thing. Like, it's not an argument. She goes, you see, men have been walking shirtless since the dawn of time without anyone batting an eyelid. Yeah. And that's why. Like, that is why. No one bats an eyelid. Like, that's the whole point. If anyone did bat an eyelid, then maybe they would be covered. But no one cares. And despite women's nipples being nearly identical to men's, even the mere outline of ours through cotton is suggestive. The hypocrisy is staggering. Like, the degree that you have to go to not understand, like, male and female dating dynamics, or just like male and females in general. Like, you literally have to, she's putting on blacked out glasses and then complaining that she can't see. Like, it's the dumbest thing. So she goes on anyway. There was this viral video that looks like it's actually been deleted off TikTok now. But it went viral, and it was just a girl going into Bunnings in Australia saying, and she comes out, she's in a car, she goes, highly recommend not going to Bunnings in a white top with no bra. If I didn't already hate men as it is, I do now. So obviously she's saying, so she obviously got looks. And when, like, you look at the video, and the girl, first of all, is well endowed and high beaming. Like, yeah, like, people are probably going to look, but not for why you think, because it's inappropriate. Like, it's not like, just because someone looks doesn't mean that they're like foaming at the mouth. It's like, okay, there's a bunch of other reasons that why people might glance, and a lot of them have got nothing to do with that. It's just the fact that it's uncommon to see because no one else is doing that. And it's inappropriate, and that is a thing as well. Like wearing, like if I had suction pant like shorts on where you could see full bulge, like I'm not worried about or thinking like if any girl was to look, oh, they're getting all turned on, like, oh, women are disgusting. No, like it's because it's inappropriate. Like don't wear things that are inappropriate, or do, but then don't complain when people look, because it's not always just because they're like lusting after you. So it's annoying that I feel like people are trying to make an issue out of nothing, because it's like when in history have you not known about this? Like, so let's say that it is that guys were looking sexually, even though they shouldn't, let's say, because obviously, as I said before, like guys should be in control of what they look at. But look at the world that you're in and figure it out. Because I could say, yeah, people shouldn't break into my house, but I still lock my front door. People say, oh, I could say, yeah, I shouldn't get robbed and beat up when I walk down a dark alleyway by myself at 2 a.m., but I don't do it anyway. Like, yeah, people shouldn't look, but you're in a world where people will. Like, why are you trying to ignore the fact that like that isn't a thing that a lot of men would be drawn towards, that would gain their attention? So let's say in the example that they are looking to check her out. Like, how is this news to you? How are you just finding out? She looks like she's in like mid-20s. How are you just realizing this now? Like, you're obviously just like more being angry about it to get some sort of validation or attention. Or like, the thing is, when it comes to the things that men are attracted to versus the things that women are attracted to happen to be different. Yes, men are more visually stimulated. Women prefer other things. Not that they're not ever visually stimulated, but like the difference is different on a neurochemical level. So, for example, men would never say, oh, I love a girl in uniform, or like, I'm so attracted to this job. Whereas like you hear that all the time from ladies will be like, yeah, I love a man in uniform, or I love a tradie or a fireman. Oh yeah, I love like the guy that does this. I'm looking for a guy in finance. Like, come on. When have you ever heard a guy be like, yeah, I'm looking for a girl in whatever, any industry ever? Like, it's not a thing. Like, and there's reasons for that too, but you don't shame women, even though some guys might shame women for being gold diggers or whatever. So that you can obviously take it too far, just the same as like men can take their ogling too far as well. I mean, any ogling in public is, yeah, bad, but that's like, it's not the point. Is like, it's being aware of like the world that you live in, and then like being shocked about it as if this is like a new thing. And if you compare the two, the things that women are attracted to, and let's say like, you're not going to hear a guy be like, oh, bro, don't ever tell a woman your profession. Like, she's just going to like want you for your money. Like, gross. Like, don't like that. That's the same mentality. Like, for a girl to be disgusted if a guy's like attracted to them physically, a guy could be disgusted if a girl's attracted to him financially, let's say. So like, yeah. And by the way, just as like a side note, women glare just as much as men do. They've done studies on this where they've done like AI eye tracking. And there was a study that said that the women were just as guilty of the objectifying gaze as their male peers. They reckon that women do it more for like social comparison purposes, whereas men do it more. They reckon that the whole reason that men are attracted to curves to begin with is that they imply better childbearing abilities. So like that's kind of the process. And the reason why women might be attracted to guys that have a lot of money or have a good job is that it signals competence, it signals resources, and like I said before about, you know, their children and their offspring are going to be well protected and looked after. So like these sorts of things, they date back so much. Like this is like evolutionary psychology sort of stuff. So the way that we have processed, the way that we've been able to survive since being primitive to now is because of these reasons. So yeah, these aren't new concepts that are just like, you know. So the other thing is it's like, it's not all about, so that's in the case that it was, let's say, a lusting thing. But it's not only that though. So like this particular girl was wearing something that was is not seen normally when you go through a general day-to-day. So no matter what it is, if you're wearing something that is different, then people are going to look. If I walk through Robina Town Centre, or I walk through a Westfield wearing a silly hat, I'm not going to get mad at people looking. I'm going to assume, oh, they're probably looking because I've got a hat on that no one else has on. Like, if I walk around in a clown costume, I'm not getting upset, like, why is everyone staring at me all of a sudden? It's like, yeah, because it's different to what everyone else is doing, dude. Like, again, no one else in the Bunnings, I'm sure, was having like full-on high beaming nips and no bra. Like, yeah, people probably looked because they were like, geez, like that's uncommon. Not because it's like they're just like frothing at the mouth. Like, if you flipped the genders for a second, women aren't attracted visually to men in the same way. Like, you could see or imagine a scenario in which a girl is trying to seduce a guy, right? And she might like lift up a bit of a skirt, or she might like reveal some of the breast. Like, imagine a guy doing that. Like, if I was to like reveal a bit of my nipple, I'd get laughed at. If I like go up to a girl and be like, hey babe, and like slightly pull out a nut and show and show a bit of sack, she's gonna scream, she's gonna run away. Like, they're not gonna, we don't have the same seducing tactics and methods. Like, if it's so obvious, I don't know why like people ignore this. It's not the same. We're not the same. Oh, dude. You can't flash sack and get the same response as flashing a boob. Like, it's out of control. That's just a side note. I'm saying. But yeah, so like going back, it's just different. So like, let's say for example, you're not like, if you wear a suit to the beach, people are gonna look because it's different and it's not appropriate attire for the beach. If you wear a swimsuit to like a job interview, like obviously they're going to say, okay, well, this is not appropriate. Like, the reason that a girl decides not to wear a bathing suit to their job interview isn't because she's worried about turning on the guys there or the girls or whoever's there, but in case there's a dude there interviewing her. Like, they're not worried about that. Like, they just know, okay, well, this is just not appropriate attire. So yeah, you don't need to like be a genius to figure that out. Like, a friend of mine has face tattoos. He doesn't walk around being like, why is everyone looking at me? What? Like, geez. So even when he got the tattoos, the girl or whoever was that tattooed his face was like, I'll put the stencil on and then I'll get you to walk around the shops so you get a bit of an idea of what it's like, because people are going to look at you. So like, you don't choose to wear a particular thing that you think might draw attention and then be upset when you get the attention. There's tons of reasons as to why modesty is a good thing to implement here. Like, the other thing is as well, is that like what you wear, it actually is a form of communication as well. So like, you signal something when you wear particular clothing. So this is like for anyone. So like, whether it's this or that, whatever you're wearing, you're telling someone something about yourself by virtue of what it is that you're wearing. For example, like if someone came up to me and they had 2 Instagram accounts and they go, one of them's a nun, one of them is an OnlyFans creator. Guess which one's which? I'm pretty sure that wouldn't be hard to figure out. And even if you were wrong, you wouldn't be wrong for guessing it, because you've collected data throughout living life and you know, okay, well, typically nuns would wear these types of clothes and so they might live this particular way, and OnlyFans girls would wear these types of clothes. So you are basically telling people that you are a certain way. Like, this is like the annoying thing about not judging a book by, like, don't judge a book by its cover. Where it's kind of like, Ryan Long has a joke, it's like, don't judge a book by its cover. Well, it's kind of like what the cover's for, though. which is true in some ways. But it's like, yeah, okay, don't judge a book by its cover, but put a little bit of effort into the cover to let people know what it's gonna be about. At least, like, I'm not gonna make a book that's about computer programming and there's just a picture of me in a mankini on the front, because it's like, it's obviously like, okay, well, what's that got to do with that? And you go, well, don't judge a book by its cover. Like, why did you think it had anything to do with me being in a mankini just because I'm on the cover? It's like, okay, so there's a degree for which you should be judging something by the look. And the only reason why people say not to judge is to get away with being able to do whatever they want and not be held accountable for it, or being able to, dress or behave a particular way. Oh, don't judge, don't judge. And they get it from, first of all, it's annoying because they get it from the Bible and take it completely out of context. So to clear up why people might say don't judge is because the Bible says, don't judge lest you be judged by the same measure, which means if you're going to judge, just know that you'll be judged by the same measure that you're judging. So make sure you're not a hypocrite. It goes on to say, remove the plank from your own eye, or the log from your own eye, before taking the speck out of your brother's eye. As if to say, once you have taken the plank out or the log out of your own eye, then you're free to take the speck out of your brother's eye. So it's basically saying, don't be a hypocrite. It's not saying don't judge at all. It's just like, don't be a hypocrite about it. There's another verse in Corinthians that Paul talks about where he says to judge righteously, but he talks specifically about only judge those who are of the faith. So obviously, if you're of the faith, you're confessing to live a certain way. And if you're not living the way in practice, how you've confessed to live and that you claim to live, then we have to place a righteous judgment in the hopes to bring them around. You don't judge people that aren't of the faith. So the Christians shouldn't judge non-Christians, for example, because they haven't subscribed to that way of living. So they're not doing anything hypocritical. That's why. It's specifically about hypocrisy. So, but like the idea that we're not meant to judge is like the dumbest concept ever. Yes, we're not meant to maybe condemn, but as far as like judging, people say that in the way that it's like, oh, don't judge, like to make an assessment and like to just look at someone and be like, well, they might, to not use common sense. So for example, like if I see a guy and he's just head to toe in Lycra and he's got a helmet on and I go, oh, you must be a cyclist. And he goes, no, why would you say that? And I was like, oh, well, just because of because of what you're wearing is cyclist gear. And he goes, well, I've never cycled in my life. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, excuse me for thinking that you might have been a cyclist. Like, because what you're wearing conveys it. And so like, if you're the cyclist and you go, I don't want people to think that I'm a cyclist, then you wouldn't wear the cyclist clothing. So it's like, if, let's say like if a guy or a girl is wearing particular clothing that signals promiscuity based on the little amount of fabric that they've got, I mean, I suppose the guy version of it would be like shirt completely unbuttoned down to his stomach. So like if you're a dude and you're wearing a shirt and it's like completely unbuttoned, you've got pretty much your whole torso out. It's like, dude, yeah, okay, I'm pretty sure I can figure out what kind of guy you are. He's straight out of Love Island. But yeah, so like for a girl that happens to be wearing like the skimpiest clothing ever, yeah, she might not be a promiscuous girl, but it kind of doesn't matter because you're basically communicating that you are, though. So yeah, they might be a good person or they might have good character and that sort of thing. They might be in a process of like not actually knowing that what they're wearing is revealing, and there's things like that. So it's like you don't judge to condemn, but like reading signs and signals is like, okay, well, I can see where someone's at that present time at the moment. It's not to criticize their value or their worth as a human being, but it's just say, okay, well, based on this, I can kind of like connect the dots because of everyone else that wears the same sorts of things. So yeah. The other thing is as well, is that like, there's also this like blame on patriarchy as if women aren't in favor of modesty too. Like all the girls that I go to church with are just dying to just get the puppies out. Like it's insane to think that this is just purely a patriarchy thing and that like men telling, like women want other women to be modest as well. They don't want their dude following a whole bunch of half naked girls on their Instagram. Why do you think that is? like knowing that men are visually stimulated by things. Girls are just as in favor of modesty as well. Yeah. And like they always try to say that it's like it's just ingrained in the women. They've just been brought up like this because of the patriarchy. Like there's no autonomy. They can't think for themselves unless it's that they want to wear skimpy clothes. So like it's just insane. I know a lot of girls that are very modest and they are happy about that and they're not deceived and they don't think that they are, and they can think for themselves. It'd be super insulting to say to those girls that like, yeah, it's not actually your choice. You were just raised to believe that. And it's like, if it was up to you, you'd have the puppies out. Trust me. It's like, it's insane. You just can't think for yourself. That's all. So, anyway, the other thing is as well, immodesty works against women in so many ways. So when it comes to things in like, let's say the dating market, how you present and what you wear and what you dress, you're going to draw particular kinds of people. And you don't actually really get to decide that either. So no matter what gender it is, you don't get to decide how the other gender responds in the dating market. It just is what it is. If girls say it's unattractive if a guy doesn't have a job and he's in his 30s, I can't say, well, you shouldn't be judging me because of that. And if girls don't want that, then that's good. That's fine. That's how I can't like control that. That's just how the world works. So for example, if there's particular girls that are like wearing very revealing clothing, there's a lot of guys that just won't go there because they feel like that it's like inappropriate. And they might go there for a particular reason, but they're not going to stay for long. So I know for me, like I've got a conviction now around like if I know what a girl's butt cheeks look like within a couple of minutes of meeting her because she's posted it online, then I'm not gonna, that's like immediately not interested. So like if in like 2 minutes, like get them on Instagram, look, oh, okay, I know what their naked butt cheeks look like, then it's just like a no-go. So there's a lot of guys that are like that as well. There's a lot of guys that will look at women and be like, oh, no, there's no way I could take this girl home to my mum because of what she's wearing. Like mothers would often teach their daughters historically, and a lot that probably still do, that like covering up was a signal of like getting respect kind of thing. So like it's helping them in a way for like men to see them with the eyes of respect. So you don't get to choose whether that happens or not. So like if you present yourself in a way where it doesn't garner respect, like I can't rock up to a date with pizza sauce all over my shirt and expect to get the same respect from the woman as I would if I was like wearing a clean shirt that's been ironed. Like I'm presenting myself in a particular way that like I look like a slob. And so if a girl thinks that I am, then like I can't say, no, well, you can't think that though. And I can't say, oh no, but you have to respect me just as much. It's like there's certain things that's going to either garner more or less respect. And one of those things that men think is that the less you wear, that they have less respect for the person, like for the girl as a particular romantic option, let's say, for like long-term mating or long-term relationships. So in the instances that girls do wear skimpy clothes and guys are attracted and it does draw them in from the visual perspective because guys are visually inclined, they're going to go there for that one particular reason. Like it's kind of like using bait and then try and do like a bait and switch and be like, hey, here's this, like, here's my body. And then, but I'm looking for a relationship and marriage. And it's like, you can't just like bait and switch it out. You have to be authentic in like what you're wanting to get out of this thing. So like there's an example, like an analogy of if you send a guy, let's say you send him a girl sends a guy a photo of food that it's his favorite food and he's hungry, it's like dinner time, and you go, come over now, it's ready, like I've cooked you this food. And he goes over there, and then when he gets there, you're like, oh, before we eat though, do you want to come look at my library, my book collection? And he's like, well, not really. I mean, I kind of just came for the food. And you're like, okay, well, we can have that. But do you want to just quickly look at my paintings? I'm a really good painter. And it's like, well, I guess, but I'm more interested in the food, if I'm being honest. And then you're like, okay, well, I've got a piano. I'll play you a song. He's like, okay, look, if I'm not going to get the food, I'm just going to bounce. And then even if he gets the food, he's like got what he came for, and then he's going to bounce anyway. And like you can try and be like, oh, if you enjoyed the food so much, why don't you come and have a look at this stuff? Maybe sometimes that'll work, but it's a far better option or strategy to be like, hey, do you want to come over like and look at my book collection, my paintings, and hear me play the piano? And then he comes over for that, and you go, oh, also I've got a recipe book here that I cook, but I only would ever cook for someone that lives here in the house and that signs on to the lease. So there's so then if they say yes, well, you know that they're there for the reasons that they were there. And if they say no, then it's like, okay, well then I'm not cooking you the food and you don't get to eat the food. Like, so yeah, I mean, the differences between men and women in terms of like the physical and the emotional draws and drivers is just so starkly different. Like we are so different. There's a book called Men Are From Mars, Women From Venus or something. I haven't read it, but I bet that would be a very interesting read. I mean, I have read a bunch of books on the differences between men and women biologically and neurologically. So one of the studies that I found really fascinating was on the receptiveness to men and women dating strangers. So there was a study that was done where they got an attractive man and an attractive woman to approach just strangers of the opposite sex. So men would go up to women, girl goes up to men. And they were tasked to ask 3 different questions. So the first one was, would you go out with me tonight? So just go on a date. And 50% of the men said yes to the girl. 50% of the girls said yes to the guy. The second question that they trialed was, would you come over to my apartment tonight? 69% of the men said yes. Only 6% of the women said yes. The last question was, would you go to bed with me tonight? 75% of men said yes. 0% of women said yes. So 3 out of every 4 guys said yes to just like going to bed with that girl they just met, a complete stranger. None of the girls would do that. Like if that isn't telling enough as it is, like there's a stark difference. Like it's so different. So obviously the behaviors are going to be different in the dating world. There's another study that was done. It's a study called Gender Difference in Brain Activation to Audiovisual Sexual Stimulation. So they tested 2 control groups. One was called the mood group, where they had a mixture of guys and girls, and they showed them erotic video clips with just a concrete storyline. The other control group was the physical type. They just showed, again, a mixed group, guys and girls, directly exposing just sexual intercourse and genitalia. Guess which one picked which? Most of the girls liked the mood one. Most of the guys liked the physical one, or like were aroused by it, even out of their own control. Like that's what that invoked. To give a broader perspective on that, do you want to know what the number 1 most sold book was from 2010 to 2020? It was 50 Shades of Grey. Do you want to know what the number 2 most sold book was in that decade? 50 Shades Darker. Do you want to know what the 3rd most sold book was in that decade? 50 Shades Freed. So like to put that in perspective, an entire decade, the top 3 books sold were graphic smut novels. And who do you think the primary audience was for those books? It was women. So like we have different proclivities. There's different things that men prefer than women, and there's different things that women prefer than men. And so because of that, you're going to see different problems arise. There's a whole big thing now going around of like the problem that women have with smut novels. That's a thing for another day. But those books, it was the highest selling trilogy of books of all time, of any 3 books, just like where it's just 3 books. That's the number 1 in the world of all time. So obviously like other books have outsold, but like something like Harry Potter has like 7 books or however many. But it's still, those 3 books still beat out the 7 books that came from Chronicles of Narnia, still sold more, sold more copies. It beat out the 5 books from Hunger Games. So the 5 collective books from that. And it beat out the 5 novels of A Song of Ice and Fire, the Game of Thrones novels, which has 5 novels and 3 novellas. So yeah, men and women are different. There's Alex Hormozy said something like, I think he was quoting someone else actually, but it was men are turned on by what they see, women by what they hear. That's why men will always lie and women will always wear makeup, which is actually kind of funny because like, if you think about it, out of which gender, who do you think is going to be the one to lie about their job or lie about how much money they make? Who do you think is more likely to lease a car or lease a fancy car and claim that it's their own. Like there are problems that men have that women just don't have as well. Yeah. One of the weirdest things about it though, I've heard a lot that women will actually shame other women for being modest as well. So like the term pick me is a phrase that gets thrown around, but it's exclusively girls to girls. Like guys don't call girls a pick me. It just seems to be something that just girls are saying. And a lot of it's like happens to girls that have become more modest and be like, oh, they're just a pick me now. They're just doing that for attention or just to present themselves in a way that guys like. And it's like, first of all, that's not even a bad thing. It's like to do something that, like, if you're a single and you want a husband, and if you're a guy or a girl, if you're a guy and you want a wife, like, why is it necessarily bad to do things that would make that an easier, more achievable thing? Like, I don't even get that, but yeah, a lot of women will shame other women. A girl told me once that the reason she doesn't like to wear full coverage bikinis at the beach is because girls will say, oh, a nice diaper, or they'll say that you're wearing a diaper or something. Yeah, but I think it probably has more to do with like a cultural thing. Like there's this idea that like the world itself, like just seems to have this desire to taint things that are innocent. It's like if you've lost your innocence, you don't want other people to have theirs. It like disrupts or stirs something up inside of someone that makes them feel worse maybe than they are. It's like if there's a room full of people and everyone's covered in mud, they don't know they're any different to anyone else until someone clean walks into the room. So it's like you don't know how dirty you are until someone like clean is like standing right in front of you. And then you kind of is like, okay, well, in comparison, I'm more dirty. So maybe it's got something to do with that. I don't even think that's a gender thing though. I think that's just like a world thing where like, yeah, I'm sure guys would probably do the same thing. And I just don't have any examples offhand, but overall, man, like I feel like modesty in and of itself for a culture is a positive thing and is a good thing. And whether it's guys or girls, it conveys, first of all, that you're able to attract through means that aren't so superficial, which I think is powerful. If you're able to be attractive in ways that isn't just like a visual way, I think that's powerful. It shows self-control as well, especially for girls, because it is harder for girls to be modest because I think it's like a biological wiring, knowing that like you've got like thousands of historic years of evolving in that way. So I actually think it's really hard for girls to actually dress modest. So power to the ones that do. But I think it shows confidence is another thing. But yeah, I mean, like I think the whole reason that it exists as well is that like men and women do need to behave differently around each other as well. We know certain things about each gender that's different to the other. So I know, for example, not to play rough with girls because guys have more upper body strength. Like there are double standards that are good double standards to have. I don't think it's a good thing that like there's guys that say equal rights, equal fights, which means if a girl punches you in the face, the guy should be able to punch the girl in the face. Like, I don't think that's a good idea. I had a girl punch me in the face 9 times. If I'd have punched her even once at half strength, she would have been unconscious. Like, there are some double standards that are good to have. So, like, women covering up their breasts in public is a good thing. And, like, because they don't have the same issue if a man was to do that. If I'm walking around high beaming, like, I'll probably get laughed at. That's a completely different thing. Another good double standard is that like men go to war. Like if we ever get conscripted to go to war, like that's good. The women and children shouldn't. It's a good double standard for men to be chivalrous and be like, oh, okay, the boat's going down. Let's save the women and children first. Like we don't say like we're oppressed because of these things. We're not oppressed because, oh, I always have to like open the door for a lady. Oh, it's always girls first. Oh, it's always like, let the girl go through into the elevator first. Like, it's all these things. Like, no, I'm not oppressed because of that, even though that's a societal standard. Like, it's a good thing to have these things. So, like, ideally, men and women would work together and and rather than ignoring these differences, come together and be like, and just help one another. So anyway, I've gone for way too long, 1,000 times longer than I planned to go, but that's okay. So, but regardless of any of that, it's all garbage. It's all trash. And you want to know why? Because these are the only three things that matters. Christ is king. Jesus loves you. And he's coming back soon. So there it is. Episode 3, done and dusted, baby. Peace.